Hi there. In this video, I have an alioli recipe that is basically a garlic mayonnaise. There is another Spanish sauce by the same name that doesn't contain any egg yolks or lemon, and also some similar versions from the south of France. In fact, I compared over 20 versions of this sauce with huge variations in the ratio of garlic to egg yolk to oil. In the end, I decided to imitate the most popular store-bought brand in Spain. Not my usual style, but if you eat out in Spain, this is probably the sauce you got. First up, it's a raw egg sauce. So you want to make sure that your eggs are as fresh as possible. There's a really simple way you can do this with a bowl of water. Put some cold water in a deep bowl and gently lower the egg inside. If it floats on the surface, it's too old, don't use it. If it starts to stand on its end, it's not ideal. Don't use it for anything that requires raw egg, but you can still use it for omelettes, hard-boiled eggs, frittatas. And then the freshest eggs will lie lengthwise on the bottom of the bowl. And these are great for soft poached eggs, mayonnaises, gelato, truffles, baking, that sort of thing. Okay, so next up you prepare your garlic. For this one, I'm using 2 cloves of garlic, medium-sized cloves. I've just clipped the ends, and I'm just putting a little bit of water in a microwave-proof container. And I put them in there for about 30 seconds on 600 watt power. Okay, and then take the skin off. So the point of that is that you're heating it up to knock a bit of the really harsh garlic flavour out. And then the other thing you need to check is just inside. Make sure there's no green sprouty bit inside, because that also gives a weird flavour. Okay, so then just put that into your garlic press, ready to go. Okay, in a small bowl, round bowl is the best one. Put in your egg yolk and some salt and a little bit of acid. So I'm using lemon juice because that's what the one that I'm imitating uses. You can also use white wine vinegar, but let's go ahead with this imitation one. Then you just want to whisk that. So you want to make a paste, and then this is what you're going to add the oil to. And just like other mayonnaises, you want to do it slowly. I'm putting the garlic in now as well. So just put that in there. Okay, mix that up. And we're ready to go. So the point is that you want to add the oil slowly, at first really slowly, and you want to make sure it gets incorporated. Everything gets incorporated before you add more. I'm just going to change sides so that you can see a little bit better. Okay, so while you're whisking with one hand, here you go, and you're just adding the oil slowly and steadily with the other. Okay, I didn't do a great job of showing you. Right. But you can see the colour is changing a little bit at the bottom. You can see that it's starting to leave a trail, so it's getting thicker. You just slowly add the oil. Okay, I'll stop as I go to show you a little bit some stages, but while I'm whisking the sauce, I just wanted to talk about some of the main hurdles with this sauce. There you go, that's better. Okay, so number one, it can split if you add too much oil too soon. So really, really slow at the beginning. As it gets a bit thicker like this, you can start being a little bit more daring, but at the beginning, go slow. There's a lot of videos out there showing you how to make a mayonnaise with stick blenders or standard bench blenders, and you put all the ingredients in at once. I tried this when I was doing my testing, and 1 out of 3 times it worked, and the other times it just split. So when it split, it was just really runny. It would get a little bit like this, and then it would just fall apart and go back to being a thin, milky sort of consistency. I think it depends a lot on how many yolks you use and how much space there is between the yolk and the blade of your mixer. I usually only make small batches because you only keep it for a week, so I'm normally only using 1 egg yolk. So it's easier to do it by hand. Okay, number 2 of the hurdles would be that you can end up something that's too garlicky and that makes you burp all day and you just don't want to eat it. So firstly, make sure that you remove any green sprouts from the middle of your garlic. Don't use the garlic if it looks shriveled, you know, the basic sort of things. I tried raw garlic versions and I tried heating the garlic. I noticed that the raw garlic version was milder the second day, strangely. So even my Spanish family who denounced it on the day and said, well, this is too strong, the next day they ate it all. So I don't know. And the heated garlic version I think is a little bit more dependable. And I would suggest going that way because you can always add a little bit more flavour if you need to, but you can't take it out. Same old rule. Okay, the next fail for this is probably just getting something that tastes weird and bitter and not nice. So my biggest fail ever with making alioli was the time I made it in Australia with some expensive imported olive oil, and the garlic and the oil just competed with each other and it was just a bitter garlic nightmare and I ended up throwing it away. It was disgusting. So if you want to use olive oil, which some people say is traditional and you have to, I recommend getting the base of the sauce happening, so to about this level, before you start adding some olive oil. Some chefs that I admire do sort of 50-50 split with the mild oil like the sunflower oil to an olive oil. But definitely I would get it to something like this where you can actually taste it as you're adding the olive oil because you don't want to add too much and it can easily take over. Okay, another point with the olive oil is that remember that oils go rancid. So if you have a special olive oil that you don't use often, make sure you taste it before you add it to your food. Okay, the last hurdle, the last confusion with this sauce I think is just in the naming. So you've got 3 basic spellings of the name: aioli, alioli, and alioli with 2 L's. So what they all have in common is that they're all Mediterranean sauces and they all contain garlic and oil. So basically, aioli is Provençal from the south of France. And then alioli and alioli with the 2 spelling versions mean oil and garlic in the local languages of Catalonia, Valencia, and the Spanish Mediterranean islands, which are Ibiza, Mallorca, and Menorca. So the original sauce is very old and it didn't contain eggs, apparently. The egg version is actually easier to make because you have more molecules for the oil to emulsify with, and that might explain why it's become more popular. And I think part of the confusion today is that in both Spain and France, the names can be used to refer to a sauce that contains eggs or doesn't contain eggs. So it's a bit of a mess. All right, we're getting to the end here. Okay, this is about the consistency I like. You can see it's got peaks now. It's pretty sturdy. This is the end of my oil, so I've added 150 mils of oil. Some of the recipes I looked at went right up to 1 cup of oil for one egg yolk. All right, so once you've incorporated all of that oil and you've got the sauce to more or less this consistency, you want to taste it. So it's a good idea to taste it on something, just a piece of bread or some vegetables, something like that, and just check the flavours. And from there you can decide whether you want to add some more garlic or perhaps even more oil if you want it to be a little bit thinner, depending on what you're using it for. Remember, I prepared 2 cloves of garlic before this, so I'm actually going to go ahead and add the second one, and yeah, just peel that and add it to the sauce as before, and then give it a little bit of time before you taste it again, just so that the garlic gets a chance to mix in throughout the sauce. before you go crazy adding more. And then, I mean, that's basically the imitation sauce. If you're a Spanish person living abroad, I'd love to hear your feedback. Let me know if this is the alioli that you've been missing. In Spain, we use this mayonnaise to go with classic dishes like patatas bravas, some rice dishes like arroz a banda, the classic tortilla de patatas, grilled fish or chicken, lots of basic dishes. You can also use it as a spread for sandwiches or burgers, as you know. And you can keep this sauce covered in the fridge for about a week. Remember, it's still got that raw egg yolk in it, so don't keep it for too long, and make sure you cover it well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to know more about Spanish cooking and ingredients, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.